Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am broadcasting from rainy Escazú, Costa Rica on Sunday, the 22nd of August in the year 2021. And I want to make one little announcement. Last week I was talking about all astrologers are not alike, and I gave you a bunch of astrologers, and there was one person I left out and should have mentioned, and that is Veronica Peretti. And Veronica I have known for many years, and I actually taught her. I was probably her first astrology teacher, and she is well on her way to, astrological success. And because she's been studying for many years, and she is another good astrologer for you to follow. She is on Instagram. She has a podcast called Essential Astrocast, but she's the real deal too, and she's someone who knows her astrology very well. And after me, she went on to study with other illustrious astrologers, and she has made a very nice little astrological niche for herself. So she is fun, and she's on Instagram a lot. You can go and look her stuff. And so I just wanted to say a shout out to Veronica if she's listening, but she's a really good astrologer, so you can that's another person you can rely on. Now, onward with the week. How about that full moon? That was an interesting experience. So if you recall, the sun was at 29 Leo and the moon was at 29 Aquarius. And so this was a blue moon because the full moon was the second Aquarius full moon in the last 4 weeks. And so while this is very much an unusual experience, Aquarius in general is an unusual experience. And a lot happened. So, but since that happened, that full moon was really this morning, and we were experiencing it last night. And if you could go out and see it last night, I, of course, could not, because once again, it was raining. So it was just too cloudy, and I think it's even too cloudy tonight. I doubt I'll be able to see it, but I'll try. In any case, the moon was 45 minutes later, not even 45 minutes later, the moon left Aquarius and went into Pisces. And the sun this afternoon, and this is all in my region of the world, went into Virgo. So now Virgo season has started. More on that later. So that full moon, remember that earlier in the week on Thursday, Uranus, the planet that rules Aquarius, Uranus went retrograde. And Uranus going retrograde always kind of turns things upside down. But we have to go within, and as I was saying on Instagram the other day, go within and find our unique talents, our unique abilities, our experience of self that is individuality. And this full moon just sort of trumped all of that. It just went and just brought it up a couple notches higher. Because when the full moon is happening and the planet that rules the moon is turning direction, it's a whopper. It's really intense and strong and powerful. And anyone who has done any full moon work this week, and anyone who's like my class, they're doing a ritual this evening as we speak. They are, anybody who's doing that kind of full moon experience is tapping into this Uranian energy. And Uranus always wants change, and outer planets always want transformation. And so with the moon at 29 Aquarius, we were ending something where we were sort of beginning something 4 weeks ago. And I thought this was going to be really powerful and positive because the moon was with Jupiter. And it was ultimately that. But there were some roads along the way that were tricky. And I'll tell you, a lot of these things with the moon, a lot of these full moons and lunations and eclipses, you don't know what's going on, right away until it happens, till it's upon you. And you're thinking, yeah, moon's with Jupiter, it's going to be full, yeah. Well, anything at 29, like 29 of any sign, is going to bring up endings. And it's going to tell you something is over, and there's the end of a cycle, and there's the end of something that got started, and something is coming to a close. And what I felt this full moon was telling us is whatever you have decided you wanted to manifest, and whatever part of you that strikes the individuality chord, and knowing yourself really well, because Aquarius's keywords are I know, and Aquarians do think they know. And what happens is, when we started this cycle at the beginning, it reminded us of the Jupiter-Saturn that we had last December. So, yeah, that full moon 4 weeks ago, sure, that was like the trigger. But what you have experienced since that Jupiter-Saturn, and where your life has gone and changed, and where you made sure you wanted something new and something powerful to come into your life, well, that's probably happened. And my experience of this full moon was not quite what I thought it was going to be, but it was still undoubtedly powerful. But I'll describe the essence of it. Since, the first full moon was 1 degree and this one was 29, we traversed the whole sign of Aquarius, actually, within the time that we were in the Leo season. And so what happened, as I said on Instagram, and what I've been saying all along last week and all, is that the sun, which was in Leo season, which was finishing its tour of duty in Leo, which is the sign of, the sun. It's joy, it's exhilaration, it's entertainment and fun, and what gives us pleasure and happiness and children and imagination and creativity. Okay? And it was aligned with the fixed star Regulus, which is the king. And so on one level, this was extraordinarily powerful, because the sun is with Regulus, and it does this every year, but now we're talking about a full moon at the place where, the sun is lined up with Regulus. So in one respect, yes, this is incredible. This is like, wow, the gift, and Leo helps us acknowledge and experience our creative gifts. So wherever your gifts lie, maybe you were recently made aware of creative gifts that you had, and that you have, and that you need to use, and that are vital to your contribution in this world. And for whatever reason, now, some people were hit harder by this eclipse than others. I was one of those people, because I resonate to Aquarius and Leo. And in some respects, that was a good thing, because I can sit here and explain all of this to you. What I realized was that in discovering your gifts, Leo, Regulus, you are discovering your own individual contribution, Aquarius, because we are the moon was in Aquarius with Jupiter. So you think, hey, great, Jupiter, abundance, fortune, openness, prosperity, open-mindedness, it's in Aquarius, and good-naturedness, optimism, But it was, this is at the end of Aquarius. And so one of the things that is so powerful about this is that, I want to make sure I say this properly, each of us has recognized the end of something. And it may not be in our hand yet. It might not be, well, that's finished. Okay, onward. It's not that simple. Jupiter's still in Aquarius and going to be in Aquarius for the rest of the year. What we may have recognized is something through our gifts, through our talents, through our abilities. When you recognize those things, as you might with the sun in Regulus, when you connect to your deep sense of creativity and talent and ability, as is often happening with Leo, you are changing. You are connecting to some level of purpose. And so I think what happened here was a lot of people, namely myself and others, connected to a deep sense of purpose and creativity and happy. This should have been a happiness kind of thing. I mean, it's still an opposition, but there's a happiness quality to Jupiter and to Regulus with the sun. And in Leo, wow, hey. However, when you connect to the fact that something's leaving or ending, as in 29 degrees. So it was the very essence of your own discovery about self, your own discovery of talents and abilities and who you are and how to use those abilities and talents in the world, that propelled you to know that something was coming to an end. And what are you talking about, Deb? Meaning that if you discover something about yourself and you're going to go out in the world and use it, and you know now this is like, wow, hey, I feel enlightened. I feel changed. I feel like I have been, something's been recognized in me that wasn't recognized before. Well, that's what happens when Uranus turns around and the full moon is ruled by that planet that's sort of standing still in its waiting, like turning around. It's stood still, it's slowly moving backwards. So what's going on is you discovered something, you unearthed something about yourself, no matter what it was, relationships, creativity, Leo is where we fall in love, something about your home, something in your life that was recognizable. And then as a result of like coming to terms with this, realized that you can't go home again. So once you've like owned some quality to your life, you can't go and unown it. I mean, you could try, but you know this. So this was an Aquarius, like I said, the keywords are I know. And once you knew something that came forward through this full moon, you can't unknow it. So you recognize something probably about yourself, and it may not be very conscious. It may be on an unconscious level. There is something talented oriented or life purpose oriented or gifted in a way that caused you to know something that you can no longer unknow, and it propelled your life forward. Because remember, we were at the 29 degrees here. And therefore, because your life was propelled in one direction, you're probably ending something that, like the stuff that, a couple days before, you didn't know what you know now. And maybe on some level, ignorance was bliss. And now you know something about yourself and you're responsible for it in the world. And you've got to go out and use it. And you are being, initiated in some way into something, and you are being told that go forth and use your talents, your creativity, your abilities. And now you know what they are. Now you know, and you have been blessed. The angels came, pat you on the head, said, go forth and use your talents and abilities, And that's Jupiter. That's the Jupiter part. The angels come and they tap you on the head. And wow, isn't that amazing? Except guess what? Uranus went retrograde, and it's not comfortable, especially when there's a full moon. And what might have happened was you might have been really happy to know these things about yourself and your future and your life, but at the same time, you were sad or recognizing that there were things that were no longer viable in your life, or possibly not going to continue. Remember, this is 29 degrees, okay? So we're at the end. We're at the end of something we're about to transform. And what happened after 29 degrees Aquarius? Well, that's 0 Pisces. And we go into Pisces, and now we're in Pisces, and we're in Pisces for the next couple days until Tuesday when the moon moves out of Pisces into Aries. And Pisces is about the trust of the divine. And what I felt was there was a moment of reckoning with one's abilities and talents and being awakened on some level, thank you, Jupiter, to something powerful. And you're like, it's like you're saying, but why, why can't I just keep things the way they are? Because the divine will, which followed the Aquarius full moon, divine will, the moon in Pisces, and divine intention is that you are doing something greater and bigger as a contribution to this planet and to this universe. And so if you discovered something new, you're like, hey man, like, wow, I'm really good at this. I'm really good at songwriting. I'm really good at singing. I'm really good at painting. I'm really good at managing things. I'm really good at running things. I'm really good at being a leader. And you are given the initiation in some way to be the leader or to be the healer or to be the musician, singer, songwriter, poet, banker. All fields, all walks of life, depending on where this full moon fell for you, then what's happened is you have been awakened to something, and Jupiter awakens us, and Uranus awakens us. And so you are awakened to something profound in your life that can only be given up to divine will and divine intention, and you have to trust that. You can't say, oh, wait a minute, I want to go back because this is uncomfortable. This new knowledge, hey, great, cool, I can do this. Oh, it means I have to use it. It means the universe is expecting me to contribute on a level that, I was pretty comfortable watching Netflix. I didn't need to be responsible for all sorts of talents and abilities. I just want to curl up with my cup of tea and watch Netflix or Apple TV or whatever I have, So, yeah, it's possible that you didn't expect to know what you now know, and it is definitely an experience that is a real turning point, because once that moon left Aquarius shortly after it was full and went into Pisces, it was like, oh my God, wow, okay, well now the divine has spoken, and I need to get up and use my talents and abilities and skills that I have recently discovered, even though you want to, and it means I can't go back to not using them and not being responsible for them and not knowing who I am. And so thank you, Uranus. Thank you, Jupiter. This was not just, it's a full moon and it's the end of Aquarius and the end of Leo. We had some heavy hitters involved in this. And if Uranus hadn't stationed and turned direction several days before, it may not have felt like this. If it was a month or two ago that Uranus had done that, well, then this wouldn't feel as powerful as it did. But I think it was really powerful because of that. So, on that note, we move forward into the week, and we move forward into our own abilities and divine will and divine intention. And I am here to tell you that we are now in Virgo season. And Virgo is the sign ruled by Mercury. And both Mercury and Mars are in Virgo, as we know, as we've been talking about. And how we use them, it's all, now we're all in a bunch of Virgo now. We've got, remember, all year it's been, a pile of planets in Capricorn, a pile of planets in Aquarius, and so on through the zodiac. And now we have 3 planets in Virgo. And Virgo is the sign of being industrious and loyal and hardworking and being very particular and perfection oriented and very much, wanting to be of service in the world. Now, what an interesting thing. Now we have 3 planets in Virgo, and we are learning of our skills and our abilities, and we are now going into the world to be of service. And none of us can step away from being of service on some level. Yes, even if you think that you are doing something menial, you are being of service in some way. And our job now is to recognize where we're good and where we can serve and where we can show our individual tools, skills and abilities, to the world, and be very much a service provider. We all do something. If we let a friend lean on our shoulder, we're doing a service to them, If we step forward in knowledge of our abilities and our skills, we know we are bringing forward something that people on the earth can use. And people need help. Everybody needs help, especially now. There's a lot of intensity in the world right now. So what we are looking at is and Virgo is, people are going back to school, people are going back to college, teachers are, getting their planners together, everybody's sharpening their pencils, and school is starting. And, one of the things we used to say is that, even if it doesn't feel like autumn until, the in the 22nd or so of the 22nd of September really starts autumn, but we get that autumn feel right around the new moon in Virgo, which isn't going to be for another couple of weeks. And so that's not really physically autumn. And frankly, when I lived in New York, it would be October and it would be 80 degrees, so there was no feel of autumn there. Like always, it might be getting darker earlier, but you still were, sometimes running the air conditioner in October. Any case, it's really important to recognize where you are of service right now. And as we know that Mars and Mercury conjunct earlier in the week, they talk to each other, Mars being, the planet of assertion and confidence and courage, and Mercury being the one that, gives the information. So there's a lot of information flying around right now. And, Venus is happily in Libra. So she's happy in Libra, and Mercury will join her there at the end of the week. So we've had a planet change. Well, the moon is always changing signs, but we had the sun change signs today. Okay, so that's number one. That's the first sign change. And then we will have Mercury go into Libra on the 29th, which is next Sunday when we meet again. And that's, Mercury's going to do its last week in Virgo, and it's flew through Virgo because, it only went into Virgo not very long ago, like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, and then it's going to fly through Virgo and then finish up, go into Libra. It likes being in Virgo. On Tuesday, the 24th, Mercury will oppose Neptune in the evening, my region of the world, and it's interesting because Mercury's in its own sign, so it has more power. You would think, but Neptune's in its own sign. So thankfully, this is a once-off happening, and that Mercury's not going retrograde back and forth with this Neptune business, because Mercury and Neptune can be a little confusing. Now, they are really facing off because they are they're in their own signs, and they are sort of, an equal playing field. And Mercury-Neptune is, again, it's great for intuition. It's great for your psychic abilities. It's great for your creativity, and your inspiration. But it is not wonderful if you meet someone new and they tell you a story and you're like, you know what? Somehow I don't believe this. So it's so don't get tripped up. Don't get tripped up, by what people are telling you. They might not be telling you the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And that's what Mercury opposite Neptune is doing. When it's trine Neptune, it's usually a lot easier than that. It's not so much. I'm not saying people are lying left and right, but there's certainly a lot of, I'm wondering how true that is. I wonder about the integrity of that story. But try not to focus on that quality of it. Hopefully you can avoid that quality of it. People tell you a story and then you find out later on that it wasn't the right story. Maybe the information was just a little confused. Hopefully rather than you were being lied to. But check your details, check your numbers, check everything that's happening. It's important to be really aware during any sort of opposition to Neptune or square to Neptune. And, we're not, like tomorrow, the moon is going to conjunct Neptune on Monday, and it's going to be later in the evening. But, so it's, Mercury's going to be getting close to opposing Neptune, which it already is, and the moon is going to be on Neptune, so we're going to start feeling this really tomorrow night. And then as we go into Tuesday and there's that opposition, I really think it's best to, make sure your details are in order and you are not sitting there thinking that you are hearing something that is absolutely the truth and it really isn't, or you're believing something. Say you get a letter from, I don't know, like a tax agency, and you're like, well, what's this? This isn't right. So maybe you have to go back and like check your tax return, and it's that kind of thing. Mercury's details, especially in Virgo, maybe you need to go back and check details on something. Maybe you need to go check your math. Maybe you miscalculated when you reconciled your bank statement. So it's Mercury's numbers, Mercury's information, but it's also what people tell you. So make sure that you're, getting the truth from people. Make sure that you're telling the truth. And above all, that you're telling the truth to yourself, that you're not fooling yourself in any way. The other thing is you want to be certain that, you use this in a creative, inspirational way. This is a great aspect to be tuned in, to be getting messages from the universe, to be listening for messages from your loved ones who've passed on, to be getting an astrology session, a psychic session, something, or, anything that taps into the other side, the other realms. That's a great use of this energy. Okay, so I would use it hopefully for that. It's also creative. So if you are writing songs, like I mentioned earlier, and you are singing, this is a great time to hone those skills and, really, really feel good about those skills. Other exciting aspects this week, Mercury will trine Pluto on Thursday, and that's an interesting day for a few reasons. Mercury will trine Pluto, and so that's a very empowering aspect. They're both in earth signs, Mercury has already, touched on Uranus a while back, but it's making a nice trine to Pluto, and that means it's empowering you in some way and empowering thoughts. So we want to empower our thoughts. We want to stay empowered in some fashion. We want to make sure that our connection to our thoughts is, our thoughts are elevated and our emotions are elevated. So if you connect very good elevated thoughts and elevated emotions, you are going to be able to manifest things. And if you can really feel things deeply, that all together is going to make you feel like you can actually manifest. That same day, the 26th, we are going to be getting Venus opposite Chiron. Now, Venus is in her sign, Libra, and Chiron is in Aries. And as you know from different experiences, Chiron is, in discussions, Chiron is the place where we have to lick our wounds or we connect with our wounds, and Venus is going to probably highlight those. And, try to not, again, Mercury-Pluto trine can be a little, you might feel a little overconfident in what you say to people. Please watch your words, because Venus-Chiron can get wounded. That's an opposition. And it might feel a little bit wounding if you say something to someone and you kind of, were stepped over the line a little bit. Be careful, please, with your words. And you must think about, where you can heal certain parts of yourself, especially in relationships, because that's what Venus brings about. And an opposition is often about one-to-one relationships. And you should connect with the part of you that might feel, it needs a little salve, a little coddling, a little warmth, a little love, TLC, a little tender loving care, because that's what a Venus Chiron can give you. So maybe you want to journal, maybe you want to find the place in your life where Venus and Chiron can give you some support rather than taking from you. And then as we progress through the week, that Mercury will leave its own sign, Virgo, and then go into Libra. And so that's it. The big news is that the sun's changing signs. The sun has changed signs. Actually, we've got that Mercury opposite Neptune. So that's a one that you want to be aware of. And then there's also, Venus is in Libra, and she's like speaking nicely to Saturn tomorrow, which is always a good thing. We like when Venus and Saturn talk nicely to each other as opposed to when they are not. And, if you have a Venus Saturn aspect in your chart, you may resonate to this tomorrow. And the Venus Saturn trine can really bring about a very positive experience of relationships, especially since it's making a grand trine a little bit loose in the orb, but making a grand trine to the North Node in Gemini. So we've got lots of things in air, and lots and lots of things in Earth. With now 3 planets in Virgo, nobody's really in the fire realm right now. So we're back, other than Chiron, we're back to having no fire in the sky. And we won't have fire in the sky again until somebody goes into, the moon's going to go into Aries on Monday, or Tuesday rather. And, until somebody spends a tour in Sagittarius, it's going to really be, the other 3 elements. So, the moon's in Pisces. Tuesday, it goes void, 5:12 a.m. Eastern time, and then goes into Aries, 2:57 p.m. So that's many hours, almost, like 10 hours or so, where it is void. So Tuesday's a big void day. It's in Aries the rest of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's void, 5:14 p.m. in Aries. And it enters Taurus Friday morning at 12:27 a.m. Eastern time. So for me, that'll be 10:27 p.m. So it's a bunch of hours. For me, it'll be like 3:15 until 10:30 at night. It's void. But if you're in the Eastern time zone, once 5:14 comes, it's void the rest of the day on Thursday. So we got a couple of long voids. We've got Tuesday a long void. We've got Thursday a long void. And then the moon Friday is in Taurus, and Saturday's in Taurus, and Sunday's Taurus. And it's void in Taurus on Sunday just for like not even 2 hours before it goes into Gemini. So very good. Those days of void are good days to get things done that are long-standing projects or things that you're used to, business as usual. So thank you for listening. If you'd like to have a session with me, go to goldenastrologer.com and click book online. And info@thegoldenastrologer.com is where you can reach me if you want to have a nice chat. You can reach me on Instagram, The Golden Astrologer. You can reach me on Twitter @DebAstrology. I'm not on Twitter a whole lot, but I'm more on Instagram. So, and here is this podcast that I am here weekly. And if you go to Instagram, if you do have an account, and even if you don't have an account, you can just form one and just to watch videos that I make and the other astrologers I mentioned make. And it's very informative. I try to be as informative as possible for people on a daily basis, giving them some information about what's going on, astrologically during the week. Because, I can sit here today and tell you things, and then when Thursday rolls around and we're having an aspect, I'm like, I have more insight about this than I did Sunday when I talked about it. So the insights continue to flow as the week progresses. And so visit me on Instagram, The Golden Astrologer, and feel free to contact me there and have a little discussion. And I bid you all a beautiful week, a beautiful now Virgo week. So be inspired, be intuitive this week, and may you find yourself in a comfort level with your new recognitions and realizations from this full moon. Thank you for listening. Much gratitude to all of you, and have a lovely week.